Hi everyone! In this video, we will look at futures arbitrage, how it works, its types, and what tools are used in this type of trading. In the first part, we will examine exchange spread arbitrage. This is when the price of the same futures contract differs across different exchanges, and profit is made from the convergence of these prices. In the second part, we will look at funding rate arbitrage, a type of futures arbitrage that occurs when there is a difference in the funding rate or when the timing of funding payments differs. So let's start with the first part, futures arbitrage on the price spread. This spread appears when the price on one exchange differs from the price on another. In general, the price of any given asset tends to move in sync across different exchanges. This happens thanks to correlation bots and arbitrageurs. However, situations often arise where, for various reasons, the prices of the same asset diverge on different exchanges. The spread widens and then converges again. The trader's task is to open a long position on the exchange where the price is lower and simultaneously open a short position on the exchange where the price is higher at the moment of divergence. Then wait for the prices to converge and close both positions. The actual direction of the price movement doesn't matter to us at all because the two positions hedge each other. If the price goes up during the time the trades are open, we will incur a loss on the short position, which will be fully offset by the profit from the long position. If the price goes down, the opposite happens. The profit from the short will cover the loss from the long. What we actually earn from here is the convergence of prices between the exchanges. And prices always converge. It's only a matter of time. This can be seen more clearly on a real spread chart using one of our arbitrage indicators on TradingView. These indicators are available to all users of any of our products. Let's look at an example with the River coin signal between the MEXC and Gate exchanges. Here we can see the history of the spread for this coin between these two exchanges. For example, we received a signal when the spread on the coin was 5%. In the signal, we see the current market entry prices on both exchanges, the coin's liquidity, the nearest funding rates, the exchange price spread, the funding rate spread, and the total spread. You can flexibly filter the signals according to all these parameters to suit your preferences. At that moment, we open a long position on MEXC and a short position on Gate. Then we simply wait for the spread to converge. You can open the spread chart link directly from the bot or use our indicator. You don't have to monitor the chart yourself. In the message with the signal, you can press the track button, set the desired convergence percentage, and the bot will send you a notification when the prices converge to the specified level and the positions can be closed. An important advantage of futures arbitrage compared to spot arbitrage is the ability to use leverage. This allows you to distribute small deposits across most exchanges and using leverage open positions with volumes significantly exceeding these deposits. Sometimes a situation may arise where, after opening the trades following the signal, the price spread continues to widen. This is a normal situation. In this case, we can open the spread history and see what maximum values the price spread has reached, for example, over the last day or two. Then we can develop a strategy for ourselves. If the price spread has increased, say by 2%, after opening the trades, we can average both positions, that is, add volume to both the long and the short positions. This way, we improve our average entry points, and it will feel as if we entered the arbitrage not at a 5% spread, but at, for example, 6%. As a result, when the spread converges, we will capture an even larger movement and earn more, including thanks to the increased volume. Moreover, we don't necessarily have to wait for the prices to fully converge, that is, for the prices on both exchanges to become exactly the same. This is especially true when the price spread is large, 10 to 15% or more. In the bot, you can choose from preset spread change values or manually set the exact spread level at which the bot should send a convergence notification. It's important to note that the preset values refer to the percentage change in the spread, not the spread percentage itself. For example, suppose the initial spread at which we opened the trades was 3%. If we select a 50% spread change, the bot will notify us when the spread has decreased by half, that is, down to 1.5%. If we choose 15%, the notification will come when the spread reaches 0.45%. And if we select 0, the bot will track the moment when the prices converge completely. Let's look at examples of real trades. The bot received a signal for the coin Vanna between the Bitget and Bybit with a price spread of 4.43%. We need to open a long on Bitget and a short on Bybit. There are two important points here. First, it is better to open the short position first, because exchanges may have position size limits specifically for short positions. Therefore, the volume of the short position will determine the volume for the long position on the second exchange. The second point. The first trade, for example the short, should be opened in USDT. For instance, with 5,000 USDT, we short 2,700 Vana coins. But on the second exchange, we need to open the long position not in USDT, but in the actual number of coins from the first trade. That is, we must long exactly 2,700 Vana coins. If you open both trades in USDT, the balance of the arbitrage pair will be slightly disrupted. That's why the first trade is opened in USDT, and the second one in the exact quantity of coins. While the trade is working out, you can open the spread history to monitor the spread changes in real time. You can also set the convergence percentage in the bot. Let's set it to 15%. This way, the bot will send a notification when the spread converges to 0.058%. Once the convergence percentage is set, the pair moves to the list of tracked pairs, and you can always return to it later if you need to adjust the convergence value. We can see that the current spread is 1.3%. while we enter the pair when the spread was 4.43%. This means the pair is already giving approximately 3% profit. We won't wait for full convergence and will take what is available. Let's look at the trade result. The long on Bitget brought almost $170 in profit, while the short on Bybit resulted in a loss of $18. So the total profit was $150. Here's how it looks in more detail. Initially, there was a $500 deposit on each exchange. We entered both trades with 10th leverage, meaning $5,000 per trade. Long result, plus $170. Short result, minus $18. Overall result, plus $150, which is plus 15% on the initial total deposit of $1,000. Another situation, a signal for the coin bearer between Bitget and Bybit exchanges. Exchange spread, 4.79%. Long on Bitget, short on Bybit. We set up spread convergence tracking. We manually set the convergence percentage to 1%, so we will capture a 3.79% spread movement. We opened a long on Bitget, just like in the previous trade, for $5,000, buying almost 10,000 Bearer coins. Since the price slightly dropped after opening, the long is currently showing a small loss. We opened a short on Bybit for almost the same amount, nearly 10,000 coins. The short is showing a profit right after opening. Let's observe the spread movement in real time. The spread reached 1%, and at that moment the bot sent a notification. Both trades can now be closed. The long on Bitget showed a small profit of plus $30. The short on Bybit brought plus $150. Sometimes both trades show a profit. This happens when the price on one of the exchanges barely moved or even moved in favor of the position, and the entire spread convergence was achieved thanks to the other exchange. In this situation, we first closed the short position at better prices and closed the long on Bitget as the second step, at the moment when the price started to rise. Trade details. Deposits were also $500 each, entered with 10th leverage. The overall result of the pair was plus $180, which is plus 18% relative to the total deposit on both exchanges. Let's go over some special situations that can occasionally occur. First, this is when an abnormally large spread appears on a coin, 15 to 20% or higher. Such situations usually arise during coin listings and delistings, when trading has just started and deposits or withdrawals are temporarily unavailable on the exchanges, or during delistings when there is increased volatility. Even though we are trading futures in this case, the availability of deposits/withdrawals on spot still affects the futures markets as well, because exchanges regulate the spreads between spot and futures. One of the elements of this regulation is funding. The higher the absolute value of the funding rate, the more the exchange tries to bring the futures price closer to the spot price. At the initial stage, it is better to skip situations with such anomalous spreads, wait until deposits and withdrawals become available, and only then, if the spread between the futures is still 3 to 5% or more by that time, enter the arbitrage. This will be much safer. Once you have gained experience, you can start trading these anomalous spreads as well, since they can deliver significant profits. Second, we also want to draw your attention to position insurance. In the case of trading situations with abnormally large spreads, or when using increased leverage, or when holding a trade overnight, You can use hedging cross-take profits and stop losses. Let's look at an example with the Ward Coin signal between KuCoin and BingX exchanges. Long on KuCoin and short on BingX. How it works: every position has a liquidation price. This is the level at which the exchange forcibly closes the losing position. You can read more about liquidations in our detailed article, link in the description. The goal is to set it up so that if the price reaches the liquidation level of one position, the second position is automatically closed by take profit at that moment. That means you need to look at the liquidation price of the short position and place a take profit on the long position slightly near that level. And vice versa, near the liquidation price of the long position, you should place a take profit on the short position. This way, we insure ourselves against anomalous price movements. For example, if the price drops sharply and the long position gets liquidated, the short position will be closed at the same time by take profit, so the profit from the short will fully cover the loss from the long's liquidation. If the opposite happens, the price rises sharply and reaches the liquidation level of the short position, then the long position should be closed by take profit at that moment. The loss on the short will be offset by the profit on the long. When setting up this insurance, we recommend placing the take profits not exactly at the liquidation prices of the opposite positions, but with some small buffer. And to repeat, this kind of insurance is not mandatory at all if you are able to monitor the trade and manually close everything in case of anomalous movements. In short, it's an optional tool, but it's good to know about it. The second type of signals, these are funding rate arbitrage pairs. You can learn about funding rates and how they work in our article on funding rates and in previous videos on the channel. Links will be in the description. Just like with price spread arbitrage, we are not particularly interested in the direction of price movement or even the price spread itself. All we care about is the difference either in the funding rate value across different exchanges or in the different timing of funding payments on different exchanges. The first type of such signals, difference in funding rate. 1 to 5 minutes before the funding time, we need to make sure there is a noticeable difference in the funding rates. We do not consider situations where this difference is less than 1%. Let us remind you that if the funding rate is negative, the payment goes to those who have a long position open at the moment of funding time and is charged from those who have short positions. If the rate is positive, the opposite happens. Payment to shorters charged from longs. For example, we received a funding arbitrage signal for the coin river between Gate and MEXC. We see that we will earn funding on the long position on Gate, because the rate here is large and negative, -2%, while the short position on MEXC will simply serve a hedging function, protecting us from unpredictable price movement, since the funding rate on this exchange is only 0.69%, that is, 3 times smaller than on Gate. Positions are opened a few minutes before the funding time. You can open them in parts if the asset's liquidity is not very high, or all at once if the entry amount is small. The larger the position volume you want to enter, the earlier before funding you should start opening, and do it in parts. For example, 5 minutes before the funding. With a small position size, you can even enter just 1 minute before funding. We will exit the positions after the funding is paid. At the moment of exit, you need to make sure that the price spread on the coin has either remained the same as when the positions were opened or has changed in our favor. The easiest way to monitor this is by using our indicator or by looking at the P&L displayed on the exchange itself in the line with the open trade. Let's look at how this trade played out. We open a long on Gate for $1,000 with 10th leverage. This is where we will earn the funding. And we open a short on MEXC with the same coin volume to hedge the trade. After the funding payment time has passed, we close both positions. The short on MEXC brought $34 profit from price movement, but $71 was charged as funding. The result of this trade is -$47. The long on Gate brought a loss of -$12 from price movement, but $168 was credited as funding. The result of this trade is +$146. Details of this pair. Deposit $1,000, entered with 10th leverage. Funding from the long, +$170. Funding charged on the short, -$70. Total result, taking into account price movement and commissions, +$107. The second type of funding arbitrage signals is based on the difference in funding payment timing. In this case, one exchange must have a high absolute funding rate value, while on the other exchange, the funding rate can be anything. The main thing is that the payment time on the second exchange differs from the first and occurs later. Thus, we treat the funding rate on the second exchange as 0 and trade the situation exactly the same way as in the first variant of funding rate arbitrage. For this signal, we need to open a long on KuCoin because it has an elevated funding rate and the payment is in 4 minutes. And open a short on Gate since the funding payment there is in 5 hours and the actual rate value doesn't matter. We open the long on KuCoin and the short on Gate. After the funding on KuCoin is paid, we close both positions. We close the long on KuCoin and the short on Gate. Due to price movement, the long on KuCoin resulted in a loss of -$170, but $200 was credited as funding. Taking commissions into account, the result of this trade is +$20. The result from the short on Gate is +$128. No funding was charged here. Details of this signal. Position sizes are the same as in the previous example. Funding on KuCoin, +$200. Funding on Gate, $0, since payment is only in 5 hours. Due to price movement, loss of -$170 on KuCoin and +$128 on Gate. Overall result of the trade, taking into account all commissions, +$148. Please note that in this case, we essentially earn not from the funding itself, but from the price movement, while the funding credited on KuCoin simply compensated for the loss caused by the price moving against the position. In the end, it doesn't matter to us, because this is exactly why we open two opposite positions that hedge each other. Let's go over the main rules of futures arbitrage. First, do not use excessive leverage, especially at the beginning. We do not recommend using leverage higher than 5 at the initial stage. Second, do not take signals where the price spread is less than 3%, taking into account commissions and slippage. The potential of such a trade is not very high, only suitable for practice. Third, do not take signals with an abnormally large price spread, more than 20%. This is also especially important at the beginning. The reasonable spread range is 3 to 10%. Fourth, always open the short position first due to possible exchange restrictions on short position size, and open the long position as the second trade. Fifth, the first trade, for example, the short, should be opened based on your USDT amount. The second trade should not be opened in USDT but in the exact quantity of coins that were shorted in the first trade. Sixth, before opening trades, take into account the current volume on the instrument. You need to look at the nearest volumes in the order book, and your position size should not exceed them. Otherwise, there may be unwanted slippage, and the entry price can be ruined. Our bot, which sends futures signals, has a volume setting and already takes into account the volume you usually trade with. Seventh, when working with price spread signals, you should also pay attention to the funding time on both positions. If the funding on one of the positions is significant, for example, above 1%, and it is not in our favor, then it is better not to wait for full price convergence and close the positions earlier, that is, before the funding time. If after the funding is paid the price spread still remains, you can reopen the positions and continue holding the trades until the prices converge. 8. At the initial stage, try to take exchange spread pairs where the funding spread is either positive or close to 0. Let's talk about the tool itself, how it works, and how to use it. The Futures Arbitrage bot contains several algorithms and types of signals at once. First type of signals, intra-exchange signals between spot and futures on the same exchange. To work these signals, you need to buy the coin on spot market and open a short position on futures market with the same number of coins on the same exchange. Second type of signals, inter-exchange signals between spot and futures markets on different exchanges. The coin is bought on spot on one exchange, and the short futures position is opened on another exchange. Third type of signals. This is the inter-exchange futures arbitrage on the price spread that we talked about in the first part of the video, long on one exchange and short on the second. Fourth and fifth types of signals. Funding rate arbitrage based on the difference in rates between exchanges and the difference in funding time. Each type of signal has its own independent filter settings. You can enable or disable which types of signals you want to see. Take the price spread into account or not, and set the minimum price spread value above which the bot should send signals. Take the funding spread into account or not, and set the values for this spread. Next, there are two volume filters. The first is the nearest volumes in the limit order book for market entry. Here you can set the position size you plan to trade with. The second filter is by daily trading volume. It helps filter out low liquidity assets. Then, order type. By default, the bot sends signals for entering positions with market orders so that trades can be opened immediately without waiting for limit orders to fill. We recommend leaving this setting as is. Then, the signal's lifetime filter. This is the time during which the arbitration situation has already existed on the market. It is not a predicted time but actual. We recommend setting at least some minimum value to exclude noise, for example 30 seconds. And also a blacklist of coins. If you add a coin to this list, signals for it with this type of signals will no longer appear. On the main filters screen, there is a global filter by exchanges from which you want to receive signals. The To Buy tab is the filter for exchanges where you need to open longs. The To Sell tab is for exchanges where you need to open shorts. The list of exchanges is constantly being updated with new ones, but even with the current number, there are consistently pairs every 2 to 3 minutes. For funding arbitrage signals, the filters are slightly more expanded. In one filter, there are 2 types of signals, by funding spread and by funding time. Next, a filter to take the price spread into account or not. It is disabled by default, but you can apply this filter to these signals as well. Then, a filter by the funding spread itself between different exchanges. Next, time before funding. This is the time before the funding payment when the bot will send a notification with the funding arbitrage signal. With this setting, the bot will send the pair 15 minutes before the funding payment on the exchange where the funding will be earned. After that, everything is the same as in the filters for intra-exchange futures signals. In every section of the bot, there is a hints button. By clicking it, you can learn more about each function and filter. As we have already shown earlier, every incoming signal contains all the necessary information for trading it. Coin. Type of signals. Each type of signals has its own letter and visual marker. Then spreads, commissions, volume, links to go to the exchanges. Then funding, the rate itself, payment time in your time zone, and payment period. Daily trading volume, lifetime, and a link to the spread chart on TradingView. If there are arbitrage signals for this coin between other exchanges, then at the bottom of the signal message, there will be a list of all current pairs for this coin between other exchanges, indicating the price spread and funding spread. You can switch between these additional signals by swiping using the button at the bottom of the message. At any time, you can refresh the information on the pair or add it to the track list by selecting the desired convergence percentage. The bot also has a section with current signals on the market. At any moment, you can see which pairs are currently present on the market. To go to the details of a specific signal, you need to press the button with its number. The signals shown by the bot in this section are already filtered according to your custom settings in the filters. In this section, you can also view the signals you are currently tracking, those for which you have set a convergence percentage. You can go to any of them to see the latest information or change the convergence percentage. In each of our products, there is a tab with information about the bot, a short guide on how to work with the bot, information about tariffs and how to get access, as well as the ability to get a discount through the referral program or become a referrer yourself, and more. In conclusion, let's talk about what makes futures arbitrage so great, why this topic is relevant and will only continue to gain momentum. First, with futures arbitrage, you don't need to transfer coins between exchanges, unlike inter-exchange spot arbitrage. Second, there are no network fees for transferring coins between exchanges. Third, there are no restrictions on the minimum working volume. You can trade even with a $10 deposit. Fourth, there are no restrictions on the maximum volume since futures liquidity is significantly higher than spot, allowing you to trade much larger working volumes. Fifth, the ability to use leverage. This means you can work with capital that significantly exceeds your actual deposit. Proper use of leverage allows you to earn substantial profits in percentage terms relative to your deposit. Sixth, the total number of unique futures across all exchanges is measured in thousands, which results in a huge number of futures arbitrage opportunities. For example, with a filter set to an exchange spread of 3% and above, there is consistently some pair available for trading every 2 to 3 minutes. Seventh, arbitrage strategies are among the lowest risk trading strategies because profit is generated not from predicting price movement, but from price differences across different exchanges. The opposite positions opened on different exchanges always hedge each other, and it doesn't matter which way the price goes. 8. We were among the first in the market to engage in various types of arbitrage and have been working in this field since 2017. The market has changed, There have been both bull and bear phases, but arbitrage has remained and will only continue to develop. As the number of coins and exchanges keeps growing, overall market liquidity increases, and there will always be situations where the prices of the same asset temporarily diverge, and we will always be able to profit from that. Subscribe to our channel and our Telegram channel. There you will find promo codes for discounts, as well as various other information on trading and our products. Also, we remind you that on our website there is Encyclopedia of Trading where we have gathered all the necessary information for successful trading, as well as more than 50 ready-to-use working strategies focused on intraday futures trading. Thank you for watching. Wishing everyone fat profits, and see you in the next videos.